Hi, welcome back to Swiping Left, podcast about all the joys of dating and dating apps and just whatever can go right or wrong with them. But we're just looking at some fun stories from people. My guest today is Andy Glaser. She's a fellow comedian and friend of mine. And first of all, welcome, Andy. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm psyched to have you on here. She's actually been married, like happily married. What's that about? No, she's been happily married for 20 years, I think it is now, right? For a gazillion years. But that doesn't mean she doesn't have dating stories. So first of all, what's the secret to being 20 years married and like still talking to each other?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think the secret is really just, communicating and the fact that I'm dominant and he doesn't, he just listens to whatever I say. It's like marriage bliss.
Okay. I'm going to have him on the podcast too, I think. We'll see what his perspective of that is. All right. So there you have it, folks. Yeah. There's the secret to wedded bliss. But so thinking back on some of your interesting dating stories, either before or after you're married, and I don't mean with another man when you're married, I mean with your husband when you're married, just so everybody gets that. I'm not like advocating for anything here. Okay. No.
There are apps for that.
There are apps
I've
for
heard.
that. There are websites for that. Oh, she's heard. She's heard, people. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So what was your funniest premarital dating story? How's that?
Yeah, I mean, I had some pretty interesting dating experiences. One time these guys and, somebody that wanted to ask me out, like, asked me to go tray sledding. I don't know if you have any thoughts about or knowledge of what this is. But
sounds like cafeteria trays going down a hill.
yeah, exactly. So, in Buffalo, where I went, got a little bit of snow.
Yeah.
And so I spent one evening going tray sledding with a guy.
I like that. Now, did you stand on it? Like one tray per foot, or did you just put your butt on the thing and go? Because that sounds dangerous to me. I'm just saying.
I sat because I just would not think of standing and trying to sled down two trays.
Your feet go.
I would have been like a goner in a second. But we broke a few trays. But there was a lot of snow. It was like we would sled like from the dorm, like almost the snow was like almost up to the window, and then just down to the parking lot. So a little element of danger and yeah.
That's what every blind date should have. A little element of danger, a little element of fun, of sliding down a hill.
Like you think, in Buffalo, you're near Niagara Falls and things like that. Like I once went on a date to Canada. The guy
why not?
took me out of the country because it was right there, and you can drink when you're younger.
Oh, but did you know him well enough to like cross the border with him? Like, what if he left you over there?
Yeah, I don't know. That was before Uber days. I probably would have gotten a cab, I guess.
That's so weird that you can just take a cab back there from Canada. I mean,
I never tried. I'm assuming you can.
I've never been up that way. I don't know how close Buffalo is to Canada, but it sounds like you could. No, I'm just saying, you hear like horror stories of people like, going away for the weekend and
yeah.
So much for that.
It was just kind of one college town to another. After college, I lived in Israel and I went on a date with this guy from my Israel program.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was actually an amazing date. But we ended up like in this like an Arab bar in Jerusalem, old Jerusalem, and we were on the roof and we saw these like fireworks going off and it was just so romantic. I was like, this is meant to be. And then of course all he wanted to do was like get in bed with me and I wouldn't do it, and he literally never talked to me again.
Oh my gosh. So was he like playing along like it was magical? Like was he leading you on to believe that this was like some great romantic like thing?
Oh yeah.
And do you think he'd taken other girls there before to that same spot?
It must have been. I mean, I don't know. This place was like a hole in the wall, but there happened to be a roof deck. So he definitely didn't just happen upon this in retrospect.
Wow. Oh, wow. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. That's not a, everybody has their own agenda sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other crazy things happen on a date or?
Well, I will say though, just the only interesting thing is that was like the end of the last century. And we didn't have like social media or anything. So it wouldn't be publicized on social media. So it was such a different, it was just such a different time.
Yeah, somebody else could have called him out on social media and you might have known like, oh, stay away from this guy. He's not he's only out for himself there. And yeah. Yeah, it's got to be like you've never really used a dating app because they weren't out when you got married. Like and you were already done with your dating. So
yeah, it was like just the beginning of J-Date and things like that. Like they were just starting and we didn't even have cell phones to swipe.
Wow. There's no swiping going on. So did you did you ever use any of those before you went, before you met Dave or?
No, we had met before it really even took off.
How did you meet your other dates? Like before Dave, other than the Israel guy who we're really mad at right now, how did you how did you meet other dates? Did you ever have a blind date?
I had a blind date and it was a friend of mine. I was in college and I was like a senior or something. And my friend wanted me to go out with a friend of hers that was from high school. She grew up in the area and where I went to college. So she wanted me to go out on a date with him. And so I did that. And it was the most awkward date. Like he literally took me to a hallway. It was just, we didn't even do it. We were just talking like in an auditorium kind of hallway.
So it wasn't a double date. She wasn't hooking you up to have her own date. You were alone with a man in a hallway.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he was
you
so
take me
awkward.
to the nicest places.
I was like, how romantic. I was so hungry.
I was going to say, was there food in the hallway?
There was no food.
No food
just
in the
like
hallway.
Hung out and talked for a while. And I was like,
hey, nice hallway. Can you believe the paint they did with this?
Yeah. I was like, wow, what atmosphere. So we just never left the building. It was so weird. I was hungry. I was hangry. And I was like, see ya.
Wow.
Bizarre.
What about camp? Didn't you have like camp stories? Didn't you have a camp dating story or something?
No.
Didn't you like swing off something and get hurt or wasn't that you?
One time I don't remember swinging, but I think maybe you're thinking of when I went up a down escalator and I was like trying to show off with this boy. When we had gone, we were in like our trip to Washington, D.C. and I was like totally showing off with these guys. And I thought one of them was cute and one of them had a crush. I don't know. It was very bizarre, but I was like, there was like this huge escalator and I was like, I'm going to run up the down escalator. And I did. And I got like dizzy in the middle and I fell.
Oh no.
And oh my God, the grooves, the grooves are going the opposite direction. If you go up. I fell, it ripped through my jeans into my knee. I still have scars that are 2 lines from the grooves. And I had to pretend like it was fine,
Of course, yeah.
To do that,
cool.
So cool. Oh my God.
Cool. Oh, that is funny. I know exactly what you mean because I myself in the Rockaway Mall attempted to run up the down escalator, made it all the way to the top and tripped as is normal for me on any staircase. And I was stuck on the top landing, but every time a step came out, how your foot is bent like this, a step would come out and push my foot back out and I couldn't get off the escalator. And I was laughing hysterically. And this woman stood over me like, drunk again. And I'm just like, Like we were in high school. It was just me and a friend, and we were just laughing so hard. So I completely understand the up to down escalator. There wasn't even a guy I was trying to impress. Thank God,
Oh my
because that would
God.
not have been impressive. But
I will tell you, the one guy that I didn't want to impress from that group totally had a crush on me. And when we got home, I don't know what he thought this was romantic. He mailed me a used toothpick. He mailed it to me. I got several days later in the mail, I received from him, I don't know what he wrote, like something like, I like you or something. Here's something to remember me by. And he sent me a used toothpick.
I don't understand the meaning of a used toothpick.
Like,
Oh my God. Like, was there a
huge.
piece of food on it or something? Like, look, I got this. I pulled out this piece of steak for you. Now I can smile.
I think it was like chewed, like maybe he had chewed on
Okay.
it.
Okay. Well, DNA, just in
Ugh.
case. I mean, wow. Ew, that's interesting. What do we do with the used? Do you still have the toothpick?
Oh, I kept it forever until I moved. And then I was like, I guess I could get rid of this now.
I would have framed it. I mean, that's so romantic. Like press it between the pages of a book.
I didn't even think of that.
And then you open the book like 10 years from now. What is this toothpick doing here?
Or it ends up at a garage sale and somebody buys it like a toothpick. What? This is a very interesting, bookmarker.
Well, that's when you make it like Steven Tyler used that toothpick. Okay. Like that's like, and then you sell it for $1 million. I mean, who knows? Wow, that's crazy. That is weird. So what about like prom? Did you have like these days they have these elaborate promposals, you know what I mean?
Oh,
Like of
yeah.
asking people to the prom. What was like your senior prom like?
Actually, the more interesting story was before I was a senior, when I was a freshman. And now, I mean, picture total nerd. I was like, a loser. But I was just such a nerd. And anyway, I was on the track team, and this guy, he was a junior. He was on the football team, and he just did track in the spring just to stay in shape for football. He was like this hot Chinese guy. He was tall and built. And I mean, we were not friends. We had never spoken. And he came up to me. I was on the track, like waiting for the baton. Like it was during practice. He came up to me and he was like, "Hey, Andrea, would you go to the prom with me?" And I was like, "Fuck you." Like I thought he was making fun of me. I thought he was making fun of me.
Wow.
And he was like, What? I'm serious. I really want to go to the prom with you. I was like, okay. It was so weird. So I was a freshman going to the junior prom with this guy on the football team. I didn't know his friends. His friends must have thought he was nuts. Like they were looking at me like, "Who are you?" And I borrowed my old babysitter's. I mean, I had a babysitter like the year before, like that's how young I was. I borrowed a dress for her, and we went, and it was the most fun I'd ever had. I had so much fun. We went with this, like, it was just so crazy. And then we never really even talked again after that. But he was so nice. He was such a gentleman.
Did you dance and
yeah,
all that?
We danced, and I was talking to his football friends. It was so weird, but it was so much fun. And we went to this diner after. The whole group, we went to the diner.
But so what about the other dates of the football players? Were they all juniors too? Were they giving, were they nice to you, or were they kind of like?
Everyone was super nice. I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone, because when I tell you, nobody was nice to me. Like, I mean, I was just such a goofball, and just awkward and skinny, and just, I don't know. It was just such a magical night. It was the weirdest thing.
That's a great story. I love that. I love magical nights. I want a magical night. No, okay. Where are these track guys when I'm out there?
He didn't try anything, nothing. It was really fun.
So no, not even a kiss goodnight, or?
No.
And then you never talked to him again?
We were just like friendly after that. Like, "Hey, how you doing? How you doing?"
What about the rest of the football team? Like when you passed them in the
No,
hallways?
they never even looked at me again after that. It was like it was just such a weird night. But I remember like being in the prom and I was like, everyone was being so nice.
It reminds me of oh, what is that movie? Pretty in Pink.
Yeah, right?
Like, you weren't there with Ducky. You got Blaine, or not Blaine. You got Blaine, right? Yeah, it's not a name. It's a major appliance. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So oh, I like that story.
It was a good story, right?
Yeah, absolutely. What about your senior prom?
Yeah, I went to my senior prom with another boyfriend actually that I met at camp when I was working at camp.
Aha. See, there was a camp story in there. I'm telling you, you did something in the woods or a tree or you fell over something.
Oh, well, I got arrested.
Oh, okay. There was that.
That's for a different podcast.
Okay. Well, stay tuned. We might have Andy back for that story. Okay. Well, this has been super fun. I loved having you on. Do you have any other stories that you want to throw in there before we wrap it up? Or
I think we covered the highlights.
okay.
Thank you so much for having me. I haven't thought about these things for a really long time. These stories.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad I could bring back the nightmares. No. No, thank you so much for being here again. Andy Glaser has been my guest today. She is a comedian. You can find her. Andy Glaser is your name on Facebook and Instagram if you want people to find you for your comedy. Is that right?
Yeah, Andy Glaser Comedy on Facebook.
Okay. I'm Suzanne Linfante. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time on Swiping Left.